Welcome to BODHI. My name is Alex Nashton. This is Chris Yates, bringing you another riveting class here. We're entertaining ourselves. Okay, so if you've taken this class before, you know that on Sunday nights we're doing this yin and nidra experience, which means we basically roll around on the floor for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour together. So for that rolling around on the floor experience, you're going to want to have 2 pillows. Alternatively, you can use 2 bolsters if you have bolsters at home. Otherwise, grab your couch cushions, pull them off of your bed. You're going to need 2 of them. You're also going to want to have a blanket somewhere nearby because we do spend the last portion of this class lying down in Shavasana for a really long time for the dreamiest meditation in my experience called Yoga Nidra. Last but not least, you're going to want to have 2 blocks handy. If you do not have blocks at home, no worries. You can just use old DVD sets or shoe boxes or anything block-like that you might have nearby. Now, we are going to start lying down on our backs today. Chris is already almost in the right setup, but I want to make sure you guys can actually see him, so he's going to turn a little bit for you. We start with the knees bent and the soles of the feet on the ground. The inner thighs are going to ever so slightly squeeze towards each other, so your knees kind of balance in this position directly over the ankles. And then you'll let the palms of your hands face up beside you. Let your fingertips get lighter and curl in towards your palms. Let the weight of your eyelids hang heavy over your eyes and give yourself a moment to just get heavy, to feel the weight of your heels being kind of pulled down into the earth, to feel the weight of the back of your pelvis, the weight of your shoulder blades, the weight of the back of your skull, all being pulled heavy, all kind of grounding you into the floor beneath you. And as you sense that weight, as you sense that heaviness, you'll begin by feeling each breath out pulling you down towards the ground a little bit more. So your inhale is very natural, but as you exhale, you sense the rest of your body being coaxed a little bit closer and a little bit closer to the earth. You sense the rest of your body being magnetized to the floor underneath you. And so we begin the practice by first getting grounded. And once we have that very solid base of support, we'll find a little more levity. So as you exhale, feel your body getting heavier. And as you inhale, sense it getting lighter, a little more expansive, a little more spacious. You exhale and feel your body getting heavier once again. You inhale and let it get spacious. Your exhale pulls you heavier. Your inhale, a little more spacious, a little bit lighter. You go back and forth between the two, feeling heavy and then light, and then heavy and then light. And we'll begin to add just a little bit of movement into this. So now as you inhale, you'll reach your arms up and then back by your ears. As you exhale, you'll bring your arms straight back over and down by the sides of your hips. You'll inhale and reach your fingertips up and then straight back behind you. You exhale and sweep palms of the hands straight down to frame your hips. And you'll do that a few more times on your own. As you do, keep your shoulders drawing down your back away from your ears. And now we'll start to add in the hips a little bit. So first make sure that your ankles are directly beneath your knees. So Chris, walk your heels in a little bit closer to your butt. Exhale, bring the palms of your hands back down again. Inhale, lift your fingertips up. As you do, lift your hips up towards the sky, so coming into a bridge pose. As you exhale, your hips release back down, your hands release back down as well. See if you can move them in tandem. So as you inhale, you reach your fingertips up and back, you lift your hips up towards the sky. As you exhale, your hips and your hands simultaneously move forward and down towards the ground. And you'll keep going just like that. So you inhale and reach up, lift your hips. You breathe out and let your hips settle back down. Palms of the hands come to the floor beside you. A few more times just like that. Keep squeezing your inner thighs towards each other. They kind of have a tendency to wing out here. Try to keep them in close. Nice. So next time you release your hips down, you can pause there. You'll stay there. You'll let your knees very gently windshield wiper from side to side. So you let your legs rock. So just kind of releasing out the lower back a little bit more. Now you'll bring both knees into your chest. And as you inhale, you'll reach your fingertips up and back behind you, just like you were doing in that bridge. As you exhale, the palms of your hands come down by your hips. You inhale and reach your fingertips up and back. You reach your heels straight up towards the sky, so working to lengthen out the backs of your legs. You exhale and curl your knees, bring your hands down to the ground beside you. You'll do that a few more times. As you do, really focus on lengthening through the backs of your legs, heels reaching up, your toes peeling back towards your face. You'll keep going with that. Nice. So we'll stay with it just a little bit longer. Try to keep your breath even the whole time. So you balance each inhale to exhale, each exhale to inhale. And then next time you bring your knees into your chest, you'll pause. You'll catch hold of your right leg and extend your left leg straight out in front of you. Flex into your left foot, so all 5 toes draw back towards your face. Think about spinning your inner left thigh down just a little bit more so you widen the back left side of your sacrum, the back left side of your pelvis. You'll interlace your fingers behind your right thigh. So you draw your thigh in nice and close towards your chest. And now keeping your thigh and your chest exactly that close, so not losing any distance, you'll flex into your right foot and begin to reach your right heel up towards the sky. So keeping your thigh and your chest in the same proximity, you work to extend your right heel up. Make sure your left leg has not relaxed here, that you're still spinning inner left thigh down a little bit more. Chris, think inner left shin down a little bit more. Good. So still fighting your fight to keep proximity between thigh and chest. Your right heel reaches up and then back, which might mean that the back of your leg starts shaking a little bit, and that's very much normal here. Take one more breath in. And then exhale, release your foot down. down. And we'll switch sides. So left knee comes into your chest this time. Right leg straightens out in front of you. You'll flex your right foot, so all 5 toes draw back towards your face. Make sure you're flexing just as much through the pinky toe side of your foot as you do the big toe side. Inner right thigh spins down towards the ground. Your fingers are interlaced behind your left thigh, and you're squeezing that thigh into your chest. Now, keeping that exact proximity between thigh and chest, you flex into your left foot and push your heel up towards the sky as your toes draw back towards your face. Let the muscles of your face stay soft here as you continue to work your left heel up. Good, and then Chris, think right inner thigh down a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna take just a few more breaths here. Make sure you're still breathing, that your jaw is relaxed, that your throat is soft, that you're not clenching up or locking anything off here. And then you can relax. Draw both knees into your chest, grab onto the backs of both of your thighs, and then curl your chin in and start to rock yourself forward and back, and forward and back, and forward and back. Try not to flail around so much like Chris does, but it's like it's a very clean movement, very gentle, Chris. And eventually you'll bring yourself all the way up and over onto all fours, so onto hands and knees. Eventually your wrists are gonna be underneath your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips, and I didn't say this at the beginning of class, but Chris no longer has a broken thumb, which means he's gonna be practicing with us the whole time. Very dramatic boy, very dramatic. So from all fours, your knees are going to be underneath your hips, your wrists are going to be underneath your shoulders. You'll tuck your toes under. As you breathe in, you'll work to lengthen out your spine just a little bit more here. So the crown of your head moves forward, your tailbone moves back. As you exhale, you lift your kneecaps just an inch up off of the floor. So the palms of the hands are pushing the floor away from you. Your kneecaps are hovering here. Imagine that you could squeeze your inner thighs towards each other. Imagine that there was also a big beach ball between your forearms that you were trying to squeeze as much as you could. So everything from the periphery of the body isometrically hugs in. You take one more breath in here. And then as you exhale, you push your hips up and back into a downward facing dog. And you'll notice that this dog is probably going to be quite a bit shorter than a normal dog is. You'll use that to your advantage to wake up the backs of the legs a little bit more by pedaling into your knees. So reaching one heel and then the other heel down, lengthening out the opposite leg. Good. And then to make sure that we truly have the right setup here, you're gonna breathe in and bring yourself forward to a plank pose. So your shoulders will be over your wrists. Your legs are fully straight back behind you, which might mean that you need to slide the balls of your feet back just a little bit more here. And then with your exhale, you lift your hips straight up and back into a downward facing dog. As you inhale, you'll reach right leg straight up and back behind you. And then with your exhale, you curl right knee into your nose, you dome your upper back, and as delicately as you can, step your right foot forward. Beautiful. Let's take both hands here to the inside of the right foot and walk the right foot all the way over towards the right side of the mat. So coming into more of a lizard shape. You'll slide the ball of your left foot a little bit further back than you normally would, so your stance is really, really long here. And then left knee comes down and you'll pause for a second. If that's already feeling a little tender or a little sensitive for your left knee, you can slide your blanket or one of your pillows underneath it for a little extra cushioning. And then you'll point your left toes back, and you'll either keep your hands on the ground or you can optionally take your hands up onto your two blocks, so finding a little extra height here, finding a little extra support. I like that option with the blocks because it helps me find quite a bit more space across the front of the chest. So the shoulders work down the back away from the ears. You're lifting up through the back of your skull, so there's just as much length in the back of your neck as there is in the front of the throat. And you're really letting your pelvis drop forward and down here. And know that in a yin practice, unlike a regular asana practice, it's quite all right that the knee surpasses the ankle here. You don't have to keep it at a 90-degree bend. Chris is nodding in agreement because he knows that I'm right. Of course I am. I'm teaching this class. I can say whatever I want. We're going to spend a little more time here. Teachers are always right. I don't know if you know that about us. We know everything. So if you want to up the level of intensity for these last few breaths, you can optionally release your forearms down onto your blocks, or maybe even release your forearms all the way down onto the ground. Nice. So in this shape, my encouragement to you is to still work to lengthen out the front of your body, to send your heart forward in space as you draw your shoulder blades down your back away from your ears. And now make sure you're still breathing. And begin to deepen your breath. With that deepening of your breath, you can press down through one hand at a time. Begin to bring your chest up. You can either keep your hands on the blocks or you can take your hands down to the ground. You're just going to step your right knee back to meet your left knee. And now from here, you can set your blocks aside. You can slide your blanket out of your way. You'll tuck your toes under and push your hips up and back into that downward facing dog again. You'll take a breath in here, a breath out, one more inhale, and exhale. Inhale your left leg straight up and back behind you. Exhale, curl your knee into your nose, dome your upper back, and as delicately as you can, step your left foot forward. You'll walk your left foot over towards the left edge of your mat, so widening your stance. Both hands come to the instep side of your left foot here, and then right knee comes down. You pause there for a moment. If there's tenderness, if there's sensitivity underneath your right knee, you'll cushion it with a blanket, and then you deepen into the bend of your left knee. So you drop your pelvis forward and down here. And as you do, you'll make sure that your hands have something for support. So that might mean putting your hands on the ground as they were before, or even taking them up onto blocks, what Chris is demonstrating here. Whatever position you've landed in, make sure that your chest is not collapsing forward and down, that your collarbones aren't caving in towards each other. Chris, can you demonstrate that for a second? Can you demonstrate that subtly for a second? Yeah, so this is not what we're working for here. We want to find shoulders away from the ears, collarbones spread wide apart, so there's space across the front of the chest. Now, most of us, when we open up the front of the chest, we all kind of have a tendency to let the chin reach up towards the sky, and we want to find balance between the front and back of the neck. So think chin in towards your throat, lift up higher through the back of your skull here. Your pelvis continues to drop forward and down. You make sure that you're breathing, that you haven't lost track of yourself, that you haven't lost track of your breath here. And we'll stay with this just a little bit longer. So notice where your attention goes. Notice where your focus goes. And try to stay with it. And for these last few moments, for these last few breaths in this shape, you have the option to release your forearms, your elbows down to either your blocks or all the way down onto the ground. Just make sure if you're choosing that alternative that you're still allowing for space across the front of your chest. So heart moves forward, shoulders draw back, you're still breathing here. We're gonna stay with it just a little bit longer. And now you'll start to deepen your breath. Press down through your hands, lift your chest up if you lower down onto forearms. And I want you to pause here for a second. Curl your right toes under, lift your right knee up. And then you're gonna step your right foot forward to the outside of your right hand. You're gonna let your upper body drape down as your lower body lengthens out for a very wide forward fold. Now, many of us, as we tend to come into this forward fold, tend to let the toes kind of turn out like a ballerina here, but I want you guys to make sure that you have an anatomical neutral. So think about turning your toes in, finding an imaginary line on each foot from the space between your second and third toe down to the center of each heel, and paralleling those two imaginary lines with the two side edges of the mat. And as you parallel them, you let your upper body drape down, so absolutely no tension in the back of the head, in the back of the neck, in the shoulders. You'll take a breath in here, a breath out, another inhale, another exhale. And now you'll very intentionally turn your toes out at about 45-degree angles. Make sure that your knees are revolving in the same direction as the toes. The knees have a tendency to kind of collapse in here. See if you can keep them revolving out. And then you're gonna take a deep bend in your knees and lower your hips down towards the space between your shins for malasana, or for a squat pose. Now, if your heels are lifted up off of the ground here, if you can't stay balanced on your own, I want you to take a block underneath your seat. Otherwise, we're gonna make it a little more restorative, so you're gonna interlace your fingers. Let your forehead relax down into the cradle of your hands, and use your elbows to press your knees apart. So you anchor down the pinky toe sides of your feet. You lift through your inner arches. Hips continue to sink lower and lower. So you're giving your spine permission to round in this shape. You're giving your spine permission to really intentionally get curvy. Try not to clench or grip onto the mat with your toes. Instead, try to keep your toes soft and relaxed. And then you can release your hands down, lift your hips up, fold forward. And know that releasing your hands down doesn't necessarily mean that they have to find the floor. You can just let your arms kind of hang out there in space. But in this fold, make sure your toes are turned in once again, so you come back to that anatomical neutral. You'll find a pretty generous bending your knees, enough that you can rest your belly on your thighs. And now with that connection of belly on thighs, you're gonna try to lift your sitting bones up towards the sky. So it's that same kind of activation and opening of the hamstrings that we did lying down on our backs in the beginning portion of this practice. So with your belly and thighs connected, continue to lift your sitting bones up towards the sky. Continue to work to lengthen out the backs of the legs. Take one more breath in here. And now with your exhale, you'll turn your toes out to 45-degree angles again, deep bending your knees. You sit your butt down, but this time it'll be a very transitional squat pose. So either with your fingertips on the ground or maybe keeping your hands lifted, you're gonna make your way down onto your butt. So sitting your hips back behind you, preferably very gently, not like Chris just did. And then you'll roll all the way down onto your back. And once you're down on your back, you'll bend your knees and draw your knees more towards your armpits. And just to kind of round out everything that we've been doing here, we're gonna take a happy baby pose. So knees come towards the armpits, you're either hanging on to your ankles or optionally the pinky toe sides of your feet. As you draw your knees down, can you flatten your sacrum down to the floor? So that flat triangular bone at the base of your spine above your tailbone, can you anchor that part of your pelvis down? And find just a little bit of space between your lower back and the ground, so the tiniest little arch between the lower back and the floor. Now with that arch, you plug your shoulders back into their sockets, you draw your shoulders away from your ears, and now you might begin to rock this happy baby a little bit from side to side. And as you rock from side to side, you might play around with straightening one leg and then straightening the other while you rock. Very nice. Okay, so we're gonna let that one go and we're gonna come into Shavasana now. So I don't know what he's doing, sorry guys. You'll lengthen your legs out. And I usually recommend for pretty much everybody that we slide a pillow underneath the knees just because it helps the lower back relax. You're probably going to want to have another pillow underneath your head just because having the back of the skull flat on the floor, especially if you're on a hard surface like wood or tile, it gets pretty uncomfortable after some time. And then finally, you're going to want to cover yourself with a blanket just because our bodies lose heat as we relax deeper in this kind of meditation technique. So tuck yourself in, or if you have the luxury of a yoga teacher teaching this class, let them tuck you in. And as you start to settle, as you start to get more and more comfortable, you'll either let the palms of your hands face up beside you, or you can optionally bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your chest. And you'll give yourself a second just to get out any last minute fidgets, to get out any last minute wiggles, to move your body around any way that you might need to move before finally committing to stillness. And as you settle in that stillness, know that the impulse will probably rise up at some point to move, to fidget, to wiggle, to get out of it, to escape, to escape. But know that through all of those impulses, you can choose to stay here, you can choose to stay in stillness, and that the longer you commit to that stillness, the fewer and farther between those impulses will arise. You'll close your eyes. You'll let the movement of your eyes slow beneath the eyelids, because we know that when the eyes are moving, the mind is too. You'll feel the softness of the blanket that is draped over you, the coziness of the pillows that support your body. The ways in which you've placed yourself to best support the relaxation and release of tension in your body. You find gratitude for the great attention and care to detail you've put into setting up the shape. And you'll begin to draw your awareness inward, feeling the sensations that live on the surface of your skin once you are in it. And so you feel the sensation of breath moving you, the pulsation of different parts of your body with your heartbeat. And you'll very specifically notice the sensation you feel in your right hand. And even more specifically in your right thumb. In your index finger. Middle finger. Ring finger, pinky. Feel the palm of your right hand, the back of your right hand. Move your awareness through your right wrist and feel your forearm. Feel your elbow and your upper arm. Move your awareness through your right shoulder and feel your right armpit. Feel the right side of your torso, your right hip. Feel the top of your right thigh